It is week 2 of the NFL, and if you are with me right now, that means you survived your pool in week 1. We are scratching and surviving. We're going to get you all the way to the finish line next. All right, guys. Week 2 here in the NFL, survivor pools. That's why you're with me. You should still be in your pool if you watched us last week here at Scratching and Surviving, where I suggested pretty much you wanted to be on Baltimore in small pools, Washington if you were in a larger size pool. Of course, those of you who have multiple picks, a lot of picks in a bunch of different pools, you may have snuck in some Minnesota bets there or picks. I know I did in larger pools where I had a lot of entries, but for the most part, I am still alive in all my pools. One of my pools, I took 24 out of 24. Washington, just thought the risk was worth it. They certainly didn't make it easy for us, but we survived. And now that seems like a free pass, a free ticket. That Washington team's not a team you're going to want to take. All right, before we dive into this too much here, you guys know, I mentioned it last week, survivor pool content. As you guys get eliminated, we get less and less views, but I still love bringing it to you guys. So if we can start this out with the most possible views, the way you can help me is to subscribe and like and share this video. Helps out the channel tremendously and then makes doing this all worthwhile. Of course, you guys are getting this content. Hopefully you enjoy it. You'll give me some likes here and help grow and build this channel, and also the Sharp app, which sponsors this video. I am one of the founders of the Sharp app, helping bettors just become smarter with a lot of really great tools. If you prop bet and you're into props or prize picks betting, I think we've got the best tool on the market for that. So give us a download, check it out for free. Hit me up in the comments and let me know what you think of the app. All right, guys, let's dive into week 2. Enough of the recap of week 1, although I do want to mention one thing about week 1 here. If you were in a pool, and I talk about equity all the time, so if you survived, and we lost about 25 to 30% of pools. So if you were in a 100-man pool or 100-person pool and you lost 25 people, you're down to 75. If the pot was $10,000 and you paid $100, let's say, to get into that pool, your equity at the start would have been $100. Now, to figure out your equity, you need to divide how many people you need to divide the pot of the pool by how many people are left. So if you have 75 left, you're going to divide that into the $10,000. And I believe that comes out to $1.33 or $133, I think. I'm kind of doing it off the top of my head, but I think the equity there is 133. You could do the math. If it is, that means you now have $133 worth of equity. So if I were to buy your pool pick from you, you should sell it to me at 133. But if you're thinking, well, I took Washington in my pool, shouldn't that be worth more? And you are correct. So you would have some more equity than you would if you took Baltimore, which is why we like to take some riskier picks, some picks that don't have as much future value, which is why they may be a riskier pick, in order to build more equity up in the pool if it's a larger size pool. If we're in a small pool, I'm in a small pool of about 50 or so people. I think it's 40 some odd people, 45. And we lost somewhere around 12 to 15. I didn't count it exactly, people in that pool, because they took teams like Seattle and Minnesota in a pool like that, where I don't want you to do that in the small pool. I want you to stick to the chalkier pick. You should have taken Baltimore last week, and you could have taken Washington. I have 2 picks in that pool. I took one Baltimore, one Washington, for the reasons I've stated in last week's pool. But in a pool like that, my equity now on that Washington pick is a lot greater. Think of it this way. If you were the only one to take Washington and everybody else alive in your pool took Baltimore, who would you rather have? I'd much rather have your ticket, because then that gives me the opportunity to take Baltimore in the future. I probably don't want to take Washington. So it's worth something more than what all the other picks are, or the entries are worth. Now, if you were one of everyone who took Washington, one of the 70 or 75, and they all took Washington, well, then you've really gained no added equity other than the equity you gained by people losing in their pool. We'll get deeper into that. I'll come up with some formulas for you guys, because it's going to be relative to the pool that you're in. Maybe in future weeks we'll go over some formulas on how we could calculate our equity. We're still a little early in the game, but again, think of it this way. If you're in a poker tournament and you have the highest chip stack, if you then sold your entry right then and there to another player, wouldn't you have the higher, you are, let's say, you're twice as, you have twice as large a stack as the next person. Well, that entry is going to be a lot worth a lot more than the guy who is at an average stack size, right? Should make sense to you. That's exactly how it works here. Now, why I bring up equity is because the more equity you have in the pool, the more conservative you want to get. So if you took Washington in a smaller size pool, or if the pool has now gotten to a smaller size, this is the point where you're going to shift to a more chalky type approach. You're going to take the teams that are more likely to win, but maybe have less future value. If you're still in a pool where it's got 1,000 people left and you took Washington, you're still in that phase where you need to take riskier picks. All right, let's jump into the Survivor Grid. So let's see if I can bring up Survivor Grid for you guys. All right, this week we've got the biggest favorite on the board is Dallas. I was in the wrong week there. All right, Dallas is the biggest favorite this week against the Giants, but Buffalo not too far behind. So as you can see right now, this is early Wednesday morning, most of the picks are coming in on both Buffalo and Dallas, which makes sense. They're the largest favorites this week. Now, San Francisco, interestingly, a team that probably has a lot more future value. I'll take a look at my spreadsheet when I see it, but they're not far off here on the line. And we're looking at them right now at an 8.5 or at least 74.7% chance. Again, you guys know when I look at my spreadsheet, I do this a little bit differently, so my numbers may be off from what the Survivor Grid has. But they're saying 9.1% of people are taking them. As we go down the list, Philly, another one of the strong teams in the league, being taken at 7.6%. Now, Detroit, a lot of people do like Detroit this season. I would say they're not quite in the class of at least Buffalo, San Francisco, and Philly. Maybe not yet Dallas, but they're close. 5.3% are being taken right now. The Giants, this is the one that we're going to talk about a bit. The Giants, 12.8%. You saw how bad they looked on Sunday night, but they are a favorite over a terrible Arizona team, a team that we faded last week. If we just look ahead really quickly at who we may be taking in the next few weeks, I don't like to look too far ahead. And when people tell me, I want to save this team for week 12, that even if you're in a large pool, we could see, you have the Aaron Rodgers situation happen, and that totally changes everything that we're looking at for future weeks. So look 2-3 weeks out ahead just to get a feel for what we've got. And we got Kansas City, Jacksonville, Baltimore, Dallas, Cincinnati are going to be the big picks. So you should be pretty open in week 3 with teams that you could take. And it looks like the same. I think that's why people are probably staying away from San Francisco. They got Arizona in a couple of weeks, so not a lot of people are going to want to get on San Francisco with that look ahead. But let's get back to week 2, and let's go to the Survivor, not the Survivor Grid, but my spreadsheet, and let's take a look at what I've got going on here. Guys, if you've been with the channel before, you're familiar with this spreadsheet. Those new, just really quickly, you've got the money lines that I put in last night. They may have changed a little bit since I posted this, so you really need to be on top of the lines. This converts to the win probability, which of course is going to be slightly different than what Survivor Grid had. This is the future value based on the future lines that we get off of Survivor Grid. So the higher the number, the less future value. You see the Giants here have very little future value. We've got Tampa with very little future value, as well as Indianapolis. And I only show here the favorites because we really are only taking favorites at this point in the pool. This is the pick percentage straight from Survivor Grid. And then this, depending on how many unique teams you want to take, is going to show you what the allocation is. I'm going to leave it at 100, so this gives you more of a percentage. This, if you were in a pool here and we were on this setting, it would tell you that you should be around 60-40 if you're taking just 2 teams on the Giants and Dallas, right? So that's a quick overview. Let's just start it out at 0. 0 means we're not looking at future value whatsoever. So when we're not looking at the future value, what we see is it's going to give us the biggest favorites on the board, and that would be Dallas or Buffalo. If you only have one pick, you're going to be deciding between Dallas and Buffalo. I would actually suggest right now probably taking the Dallas pick just because you're going to get leverage over the field. Keep looking at Survivor Grid to see if this changes. In a lot of pools last week, Survivor Grid was off from some of the sharper pools like Circa, because the pool is a little bit sharper, smarter people in a pool like that, and a lot more people took Washington than they did in, let's say, your home average game with your office or family and friends. So You may pick up some leverage here. Probably Dallas will be your best bet in a smaller type of pool. As we increase the future value here, let's go all the way out to 50%. Even at 50%, right? So maybe this is a pool with 100 people or so. The pool is, or the spreadsheet is advising a Dallas or Buffalo pick. And again, I would lean towards the Dallas side. But if I'm going to spread it out now and I've got multiple picks in a moderately sized pool, this is where the Giants come into play. Now, why are the Giants a play here? They're not, they're what, the sixth favorite here? Sixth most likely team to win. It's a scary play, but as you increase the amount of people in the pool, if you only had one entry and you've got over 100 people still left in your pool, your chances of winning that pool are still very slim, right? So the reason that we're going to look at future value heavier in those instances is because of the fact that it's just going to be very unlikely that you win. And in order to do so, you're going to have to survive a lot more weeks than someone in a smaller pool. So we're going to be looking at future value a little bit heavier. So yes, is it going to be more risky to take a Giants pick? Of course. But when do you want to take the risk? I'd much rather take a risk now on a team that's a 5.5 or 6 point favorite that I'm not going to take again, as opposed to in the future when you're going to have very little chance of taking a team of the caliber or lack thereof of quality in the Giants at a 6 point favorite. They're just not going to be that big a favorite. Just like Washington was never going to be an 8 point favorite or 7 point favorite, whatever it was they were last week. Again, you're not looking at this Giant team as possibly being that big of a favorite. So you're able to take a team with little value at a good price. If you've played survival pools before, you know that once you get to like week 10 and 11 and 12, you're taking 3 point favorites in all likelihood. And they're just not going to be comfortable picks. Yes, you may survive to that point, but our objective here is not to survive as long as we can. It's to win the pool. And what gives you the best chance to win the pool is taking teams like the Giants, taking risk. You have to figure out when the risk is calculated. People in your pool probably took underdogs last week. Someone probably survived taking the Jets. I saw many Jets picks and Buffalo picks. Some people took the Giants in pools. Like taking those kind of risks, people think, well, I'm going to be contrarian. I'm going to take an underdog. There's a time and a place where you could do that, but this is the time, this is the risk I would like to take when only 10, 15% of people in a pool may take the Giants, and then I can take them. So let's dive back into the spreadsheet, and we'll take a look. If we increase the size here up to 100% future value, how does that change it? What it's going to do, of course, is going to weight the Giants even more. So now at 100% future value, if you only had one entry, you almost certainly have to take the Giants with that pick. You do see, though, if we get to 4, it opens up Tampa as a possible play. And again, Tampa not a big favorite this week, but very little future value. So when you're in pools, if you're in a pool where you have multiple eliminations, where they allow you, let's say, 2 eliminations or a rebuy type of pool, that's where you seriously have to start considering a team like Tampa or the Giants, and certainly the Giants in those type of pools, because of the fact that they are allowing you to take more risk. Let someone else take the chalky pick there. You don't want to take chalk. You want to be able to take as much risk as possible and hopefully form a line. And when I say a line, that means who you took in week 1, 2, 3, and 4 of picks that you don't necessarily need come week 8, 9, 10, and 11 to make it easier for you late and survive further and deeper into these pools as you take the Baltimores and the Buffalo and Dallas and San Francisco. As you take those teams, you're going to handcuff yourself later in the pool. So you look for the weeks where you can possibly get yourself a pick like the Giants here, a pick where they're a favorite but very little value other than this week. And that's the time you really have to take some risk and some chances in these larger pools. So that's what I've got for you guys this week. I don't want to make these videos too long. Again, do me a favor, like and subscribe to this channel and this video, and share these videos with your friends. It helps us out greatly. Download the Sharp app. Also, I would appreciate that if you like this content. And we'll be back with you next week, hopefully surviving. Leave your comments down below. I love reading them, and I love answering them for you guys with advice on these type of pools. Good luck, and I'll see you next week.